3 years, 3.5 years, 4 years this November. There is quite a crowd here today. It goes back in the hall, and just taking some notes as you guys were talking. I believe you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have 32 positive cases in Wells County right now. There is more than 32 people down here in this basement. A lot more than 32 people. So if you guys look around and take a visual, this is some pandemic. Another thing, we have one in the hospital. So, and that doesn't sound to me like the hospitals are being overran. It sounds like they're not being overran at all in this county. Brandy, you talked about giving 15 restaurants verbal complaints. That's about every restaurant I can think of in Bluffton. That's a big number. I'm not sure how many restaurants are in Bluffton. But that's a lot of restaurants. And only one had a second warning. So you've never had another complaint on another restaurant since you gave them their verbal? You never had a second complaint on any of those 15 restaurants?
I have over 100 restaurants, so 15 out of over 100.
Okay.
No, not since they've had a verbal. I haven't received a second.
So you never received another complaint once. Thank you. I just wanted that to be on the record. So getting started. First of all, I want to thank you guys for your time. And let me speak. So if you read the scriptures, everything in the scriptures points to an almighty God. Okay? And God allows us to take part in his creation. And that's exactly what we have done. It's called the cultural mandate. And God has given us a restaurant 3.5 years ago, and it is his. And that's the way we view it. And you guys probably all see my video, and you know what our mission is in our restaurant. So we've been open for over 3.5 years. Not one time have we had a health complaint in our restaurant over those 3.5 years. Not one time have we been accused of not complying to the health department. Not one time have we been accused of being defiant to authority. Because that is not what we're about. We are about the health of our employees and the health of our customers, and we take that very, very seriously. We've complied to everything up to the point of the mask mandate. Brandy has been our health inspector for a couple years now, and we've had a great relationship with her. This is not personally against Brandy. We think she's a fine lady. She has asked us to do many things. For example, she wanted us to fix our floors in our kitchen, retile them. We complied. She asked us to have our customers call in more orders so people aren't standing in the line so long when the COVID started. We complied. They asked us to shut down our dine-in restaurant, part of our restaurant, and we complied. They asked us to take out tables and chairs, and we complied. They asked us to put up plexiglass, and we've complied. So you asked us or then the mask mandate came along 3 weeks ago, and it is a strong suggestion from our governor. He gave this suggestion with no evidence or scientific proof that they help at all. And they're still, it's not on the box. The masks come in, they say they don't help in any way. Fauci said they didn't help, then he changed his mind. The Surgeon General of the United States said they don't help, and he may recently have changed his mind. For months they were saying this. Many leaders in the medical field outside of our government payroll say they don't help. Other countries' health experts who aren't going through an election this year say masks are ineffective. They do not help. In fact, the thought of masks being worn on healthy people is absurd. It's absurd in the history of the medical thought. In fact, it is proven, and there is scientific proof that it is unhealthy for healthy people to wear masks. For example, Legionnaire's disease. So this isn't about health at all. If it was about health, you would be talking about the mental health in this meeting today, the depression in this meeting today, the suicidal tendencies that are skyrocketing through the roof through this whole COVID situation. You'd be talking about the anxiety cases going up through the roof If it was about health, you'd be talking about that stuff today, but you're not. You're talking about COVID. 32 cases in Wells County has 28,206 residents. If you do the math, as the news article came out 2 Fridays ago, the headline on it was, COVID spiked significantly in Wells County. There's 4 weeks of testing, there's 20 confirmed. Some of those numbers that they gave today, those were tests that were delayed since March, but they didn't mention that. And they came back at the same time when this testing was over. So I would like to have that, I would like you guys to speak on that a little bit. Because those tests that came back in that news article wasn't even all from that time period. Anyhow, so if this was about health, you'd be talking about the depression and the anxiety and what this is doing to people who own small businesses and families losing their job and livelihood. I didn't hear one mention of that today. If this is about health, those things would be considered as well, but it's not. And that is affecting way more than 32 people in this county. Small businesses are struggling right now. This isn't about health at all. It's about compliance. It's about partial compliance at least. That's why I'm the only one who's got a second warning, is because we're refusing to comply. And you guys know that. This is about you guys flexing your muscle and obey a suggestion from the governor that has no evidence or science behind it. Let's talk about the complaints my restaurants have received. I'd like this to be on record. For there to be a valid complaint, it has to be signed, okay? It has to be signed, and that makes a valid complaint. Is that correct, Brandy?
Well, most complaints come in the form of a phone call. When this process started, I requested that those people make a signed complaint, yes.
Okay, so
But
I talked to
most-
this. Okay,
most-
I apologize.
Okay. Most of all the complaints I received for most restaurants are typically a phone call.
Yes, but I was talking to the commissioners, and they said that they must be signed for them to be valid.
I have them.
Okay. That's what the commissioners told me anyhow, that they have to be signed to be valid, and I believe that we talked about it too. So on my first verbal complaint, all right, I had two complaints on my first verbal, all right? One was a complaint from my competitor in this town who owns a small restaurant, and he did not sign it, but it was on that verbal anyhow. And the thing was, his complaint was that I believe my customers were not social distancing and were not wearing face masks, or my employees. And the other complaint I got was a sign on my door that said face masks are optional. You know, when I made that video on Facebook, I done it for 3 main reasons, and one of those reasons was because I wanted to let my customers know that they had, if they didn't want to come in, they didn't have to. I was looking out for their health. All right, I was making it public to tell them that we are not complying, and I wanted my customers to know that, because we do care for our customers, we do care for this community, and we care for the health of this community. And so I made it public, and that was one of the 3 reasons. All right. Another thing I did was I put a sign on the door that said masks are optional with our employees and our customers. And again, if you didn't see my Facebook video, we have it posted on our door that that's the case. So if you chose that you didn't want to come into our establishment because of this, then you were free to not come into our establishment, all right? So that was one of the 3 reasons I made that video. The other complaint on that first complaint was by none other than Jack Wanger. And Jack Wanger is sitting right up here. He is part of the health board, all right? He came and he took a picture of my door and left, and I confronted him, and all he seemed to do is want to growl at me. He didn't want to have a conversation, he didn't want to talk, he just wanted to growl. And so I told him that I don't want him back on my property again. But so my first verbal complaint came from the health board itself. A second complaint I got was about my customers and my staff not wearing face masks, and that was signed by no other than Tom Longenberger, who's sitting right next to Jack Wanger. And then I did get one or two complaints I haven't played. I can't place one of them yet, but I'm trying to. I know it's connected somebody else in on this board. If it was, would you say it now? Did anybody else on the board sign a signed complaint for Yergy's barbecue on the board? Okay. So the first complaint should be, and we complied. We took we took the sign down off the board. So having said that, so I believe that is proof that you guys are targeting my restaurant. You guys are picking me out and trying to make an example of us, and the proof is in the evidence of who my complaints are coming from. It's coming from you guys. So having said that, that is called collusion. So we demand right now that Jack Wanger and Tom Longenberger resign from the health board immediately for colluding in the health department. I want that on record, please. And if you refuse to resign immediately, we ask the commissioners to ask them to resign and enforce it. We know the commissioners appoint the board and hires the staff. We also know the commissioners are an elected position, and I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that's what your constituents would like you to do. We are tired of government overreach.
Yeah!
We are tired of tyrants like you. It must be very frustrating for you guys that you can't power your will upon us in our business. But you see, the good Lord gives and the good Lord takes away. You guys are just vessels for his will and his plans. And they are glorious plans that no man can thwart. Christ gave us his life for our sins, and he gave his life for my sins. And anyone who bends their knees and repents and confesses his lordship, he will do it for them as well. You people have no power over us. Christ is king. So you can't take my business from me when we are willingly laying it down. That must make tyrants angry because it must make tyrants angry, but it should soften the hearts that you oppress. With that, I conclude, and that's where we stand. Thank you for your time. I got a business to open.